Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. In this series I have been filming and kind of recapping on any trips I take and the yarn shops I visit whilst I'm there, because if you're anything like me, ahead of any trip, whether I'm going anywhere, UK or otherwise, I check out which yarn shops are around and whether I can go and pop in and say hi and browse their goodies. So today we're recapping my trip to Edinburgh and the yarn shops I visited there, a couple of the nitty activities I did whilst there, and in honour of a Scottish, I guess, a recap, I'm wearing my Gallant Sweater Mohair edition knit up in Wee County Yarns Kinross 4-ply, which is one of my favourites. And because it's a little bit chilly today, I have got my Anthe shawl by Moonstruck Designs on. I cropped the shawl a little bit, but I will probably go over that properly in a podcast episode at some point. But let's get into Edinburgh. So there are lots of yarn shops in Edinburgh, but I focus my search on yarn shops that sit in the kind of centre of the city. I was there for 4 days and I really wanted to make sure that I didn't rush through seeing them all, and I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't spending my whole trip trying to get to different areas just to see yarn shops, because there were some other things I needed to do whilst I was in Edinburgh. But across 4 days, I hope to go and see 3 yarn shops and meet up with a couple of nitty friends. Now, unfortunately, the dates that we had planned to go to Edinburgh, one of the yarn shops was closed. The owners were taking a holiday, much well deserved, and that meant I couldn't unfortunately go and see them. So this video is going to focus mainly on 2 knitting shops. The knitting shop that was closed was Inspired Fibres, and the other 2 that I did manage to visit were Ginger Twist Studios and Kathy's Knits. So I will give you a little tour of their shops. I will hopefully also include some footage of Edinburgh itself, not masses, I must confess. And I'll kind of talk you through the vibe in the shops, what you can kind of expect from them, and then I'll also just touch up on some things that I picked up from both shops. So if we start actually with Ginger Twist Studios, which was actually the last shop I visited because of their opening days, and that is a really good point to start on. Some of the Edinburgh yarn shops are closed on Mondays and Sundays. Some are closed Monday, Tuesday. So Ginger Twist Studios opens from Wednesday through to either Saturday or Sunday. I can't remember which, I must confess. So I ended up visiting Ginger Twist on the very last day of my trip. It's a really, really nice walk out of the city centre to the shop if you'd like to walk, but there are also lots of buses heading that way too. Lots of options to get there. The shop is on a nice little street that's also got some cafes. It's got like a little mini art collective and a gallery just down the road, so other things that you can do whilst you're in the area, and it's got lots of parks nearby that you can go and sit and knit in if you'd like. The shop itself is beautiful. It's laid out with a kind of main room at the front with these enormous windows out onto the street, and then there's actually a little sewing room out the back. Now Ginger Twist have become really famous for the fact they've got their own yarn dyeing arm or section of their company. So one whole wall is dedicated to their hand-dyed yarns on multiple different bases. I went with the intention very much of picking up a skein of their hand-dyed yarn, in particular their colour, is it Melon Balls on Fire? Yeah, love that colour. But I picked up a few different things instead, because what I didn't necessarily expect was the variety of commercial yarn bases that they stock and local Scottish yarns that they stock. I was really, really impressed, and the layout is really beautiful and easy to kind of explore. But they also have lots of knitting notions and books. Now during the trip I actually have been knitting a pair of socks, and I was really struggling with the sizing, and I've never had a pair of sock blockers. So instead of getting a hand-dyed skein, I ended up picking up a set of sock blockers. There's only one here at the moment because the other one has a sock on it. They come in this really cool bag, and these are from Knit Pro. These are the Aqua sock blockers, and I got size medium, and you can get those for £21 in the shop. So I picked up a pair of sock blockers, and speaking of commercial yarn, the other thing I picked up was a skein of Rosarios Piopardo, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is a kind of spin cycle-esque barber pole yarn. Really beautiful. Now this is actually a gift for my mother. She has already seen this, but I thought I'd just show you. And then the other thing I picked up from them was some beautiful porcelain buttons, and those have also been gifted to a nitty friend, so I can't show you those. So that was Ginger Twist Studios. Now, I tell a little lie when I say I'm only covering 2 yarn shops, because on my way to Ginger Twist Studios, I walked past a shop on the Mile, the Royal Mile in Edinburgh that goes down from the castle. I was just walking past a shop and completely unexpectedly saw yarn in the window, and this shop was called Ragamuffin. They mainly sell small batch machine knitted Fair Isle jumpers. They sell other handmade products from around the world, but they have a very, very small knitting section, which is, I believe, expanding, and will hopefully be stocking Zakami yarns, which is super exciting. So I popped in just to say hi and got chatting to the woman working there. And I picked up, unfortunately, they're not going to stock this yarn going forwards. I can't quite remember the reasoning behind that, but what I picked up was the last of their stock of Wee County yarns. They're little tiny nuggets. I don't really know what they call these. They just call them pure 4-ply wool. Now I understand these are actually spun off cones of JC Rennie, but I'm happy to be corrected by that. But I got her a little gradient set of greens and greys that were left over. So I purchased these from this shop, and as I say, if you type in yarn shops in Edinburgh into Google, this shop would never come up, but they are totally worth checking out. They've got some Jameson Smith Shetland, they've also got some local Scottish yarn bases from multiple different local Scottish companies, as well as some knitting tools. So I'd really, really recommend it, and it is so, so central, so easy to access. So that brings me on to the other shop that I visited whilst in Edinburgh, and this was Kathy's Knits. Now, when speaking to knitty friends and knitty people, this shop didn't tend to come up too much in conversation, which I thought was really interesting. So I went in not quite knowing what to expect. I'd had a look on their website and I could see they stocked some companies that I wasn't that familiar with, but that was quite exciting. So I made the trip, and I'm really, really pleased I did. It's quite a small shop, and it's down in a basement unit within kind of a row of beautiful old kind of almost like townhouse style. Lots have been converted into shops, but it's down in the basement. It's in a really good area for food. I actually popped around to the New Town Deli, which was like a 5-minute walk away, which was so yummy. So it's in a really good area, and also the walk around there, you get to see some of the really beautiful residential areas within the centre of Edinburgh. So whilst I was there, what did I do? Well, they've got a number of Scottish hand dyers that I'd not come across, and they've also got some Scottish yarn brands that kind of do small batch natural yarn. So I picked up, I'm not going to pronounce this right, but is it Siaban or Siaban DK? This is spun in Scotland at the Mill and Wool Centre in Grimsay, North Uist, Outer Hebrides. It's Siaban Sandrift on Matchair, which is 100% Scottish wool. So this is a blend. This is like their medium colour. They've got lighter, they've got darker, they've got a kind of stripy one, but I really, really loved this. So I picked up this along with another yarn brand that I had not come across, but again, really lovely to support the Scottish wool industry. This is from New Lanark Wool and Textiles Mill. And the camera is not quite picking up the nuance. There we go. Whoa. So this says, produced at New Lanark on historic machinery, thank you for your support. This is the shade Bramble on their DK base, which is 100% pure new wool, 50 grams, it's 120 meters. They also do 100-gram versions of this. They do an Aran weight version and a chunky version. And I just love the color. I'm going to knit the two of these together into a brand new design, which will be coming very soon. So I'm really excited. But really lovely to be able to look at some different brands, new to me bases. And Siaban, pronunciation, sorry, but this yarn is also stocked in the Ragamuffin shop that I mentioned on the Mile. So those were my yarny purchases whilst in Edinburgh, and I was really pleased to go to both shops. I thought they offered some really different things, and you could get a range of hand dyed, access to lots of the kind of very popular notions books, commercial bases, and then Kathy's Knits offers access to some maybe slightly harder to source, more Scottish based yarns. So something a little bit different from each, and I really, really enjoyed that. Now, whilst I was up in Edinburgh, it'd be remiss of me not to mention that I did manage to meet up with some knitty friends and kind of new and growing friendships. So I really would encourage you to also have a think each time you visit a city or a place. Have a think about the designers, the podcasters, the people that you know via Instagram, etc., and try and take the opportunity to meet some people in person, because it's so lovely and so different and so enriching. You know, we watch all this content online and that's lovely. It really is, and it's a way to connect, but it's even nicer to be able to layer that with some in-person experience. So yeah, was really pleased to be able to do that. And speaking of, I managed to meet up with Aude of Bubbles and Berries, and she very kindly gifted me a set of tiny little hand embroidered stitch markers. So gorgeous. So I've come away from Edinburgh absolutely spoiled. It was pretty quick off the back of visiting Unravel, so I was keen to just focus on picking up one or two things that I knew I couldn't access down here in England. But I'm really, really pleased with the trip, and I'd highly recommend both those shops, plus, well, all three of those shops, plus Be Inspired when it is open. So that is my little recap of Edinburgh. I really hope this was helpful. If you are thinking of visiting the Czech Republic and Prague in particular, I also have a video up recapping yarn shops there. And very soon there will be one recapping yarn shops in Tokyo. So I'm very excited to keep bringing you this series as I travel, as and when I visit these different shops. There'll be these small recap videos up for your viewing pleasure. So with that, I will say bye, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.